Oh, hi, people. It's Andrew from Ick Studios, Cleveland, Ohio. Your finest basement studio in my house. Yeah. Last week was a lot of fun when we had Justin and John on. This week we have another guest because I am feeling completely uncreative. So if I let other people talk, then I can make myself feel better egotistically by not performing in front of you all. Anyway, my guest this week is Mr. Andy Garfield. Mr. Andy Garfield is the founder and dude who runs everything at Pachinko Media, which is in beautiful Burbank, California. He is specializing in music and sound design for themed entertainment. He's been doing this for about 5,000 years, and he's here to talk about that. We're going to talk about his kind of where he comes from, what he does now, and his class that's coming up here in a few weeks. So if folks have questions about that kind of stuff, this is a good place to ask those kinds of things, and we're just going to talk some shit and see what happens. So, Andy, thank you for coming on. I haven't seen you since 2010.
It's truly my pleasure, and thank you for having me. And I can't believe that it's been that long. I guess it has been 10 years.
Yeah. Last time I saw you, we were hanging out at the Steve Allen Theater seeing the Reanimator the musical.
Oh, right.
Still,
that's right. Was I running the sound, or were we watching it together?
We were watching it together. But I remember that booger from Revenge of the Nerds was 2 seats behind us.
Well, I ended up doing the sound design and running the sound every night for that when it went to the Hayworth Theater in Hollywood, California.
Beautiful Hollywood, California.
Yeah, not beautiful.
No. Well, you know.
I can only imagine the disappointment when people go to Hollywood from anywhere else in the world. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I ended up doing the sound design for that show. I just was there for every single performance, struggling through that. It was, man, that was tough. That was a tough gig.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean,
anyway,
it was fun. I mean, when we saw it, it was a blast. I mean, it was a complete surprise too. I love that you just randomly decided that was going to be a thing. But yeah, I wish I still complain that there's no cast album for that.
They recorded one officially, but I guess I don't know what happened, why it didn't get released. I don't know. I have no idea. I have a recording of the show from one of the live performances. I'm not sure that they know that, but I've never given it to anybody.
Yeah,
I've never put it out there, and I wonder what's going to happen, if anything, now that Stuart passed last month. So I don't know. Who knows? I think it's probably just tied up in legal shit. Who knows?
Probably. And for those that I should probably preface that. So they, what's his name? Stuart
Gordon.
Stuart Gordon, guy who directed and wrote the original Reanimator, did a musical version of it, which was just fucking insane. And we got to see it
literally
in 2010. Yeah, it was just nuts. But yeah, you can still see some video clips of it on YouTube. This is in the early days of YouTube, so it's not quality, but it's still pretty entertaining. It was a fun time.
Well, anyway, I didn't come on to talk about Reanimator the musical, which I did not write.
Let's talk about you instead.
Yeah, and jobs that I enjoyed.
Yes. So, Mr. Garfield, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm from Anaheim Hills, California. I was born just across the Santa Ana River in Fullerton, California. And then my parents, we moved to Anaheim Hills shortly after I was born. And for those of you who don't know, Anaheim Hills is just about 10 miles east of Disneyland. The city of Anaheim is just sort of like a big square, but then there's this little offshoot, that panhandle of Anaheim. It's for the Anaheim Hills. So, I grew up going to Disneyland a lot and being super into Disney because, Anaheim exists because of Disneyland.
Right.
I mean, it was just a agrarian, it probably would still be orange groves if Disney hadn't bought those 250 acres or whatever it was. Um, anyway, so I grew up in Anaheim, and I was always into music and art and animation and filmmaking, and I made a lot of short films, Super 8 cameras with you and my friends, and we did all kinds of crazy stuff. And it was just like, my parents indulged all of my hobbies to the max.
Yeah, they were really good at that.
They were really good at indulging all of my interests in drawing and sculpting and filmmaking and animation. I took animation lessons. I took piano lessons, which turned into composition lessons. I played trombone in the band, the high school band, and got to do a lot of traveling because of that. And it was a lot of fun.
Right.
But and then in high school, I met you. You were
Yes.
there for a couple of years.
Yep.
And then he moved. I don't remember where you moved to. Did you move to Cleveland?
I moved back to Cleveland. Yeah. That
Yeah,
was like
yeah,
my
okay.
junior year, so that would have been 1991.
Right. So we were torn apart, you and I.
Torn apart
And,
by a horrible family.
yeah. Yeah, we don't have to get into that.
Yeah.
So so then I thought I was going to do animation, and then I went to visit with the dean of admissions at CalArts
Mm-hmm.
in Valencia, which is like the feeder school for Disney animators. And let's just say that he was pretty convincing that it was probably something I should not plan on doing until I got a lot better. Because my parents, bless their hearts, were very encouraging, but they didn't, really know how to encourage. And, what I should have been doing is taking life drawing classes for
Right.
5 years instead of drawing, trying to draw cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
So, I didn't really have any life drawing examples, and they were just like, yeah, this isn't for you. So I focused on music and composing and scoring and arranging for the band. And then when I found out that Buddy Baker, who was the head of music at Disney for almost 30 years, started a film scoring program at USC here in Los Angeles, I went to see him and told him what I wanted to do, and I said, I wanted to do music for theme parks, and he was just like, "Wow, okay, and your music is good, sure, you're in." And so that's how I got into USC, because my grades were garbage.
Right.
I had, and because I had so many hobbies that were so indulged.
Yeah, we spent most of our time in high school just like fucking around doing everything but school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that's what I did in college too, which wasn't the best idea. I scored so many films in college. I mean, like probably over 100 films.
Holy shit!
Short films, and I was just like, I was one of the few kids in school that had like a studio, like a rig with like good synthesizers that and I knew how to kind of knew how to score films, and how to do, like, at the time, semi-realistic sounding orchestra stuff. So yeah, I got this reputation of like being able to score films like overnight.
Right.
So people come to me and just be like, they'll just finish the cut, it's due tomorrow. And, just scoring these things, and it was great training though for years later when I started doing animation for TV animation, and I had to crank these things out like really fast, like just basically just like set a click track and play a guide track and like live score these shows, with like maybe 6 passes, and then like done.
Jesus,
invoice.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I went to USC, studied with Buddy and all that kind of stuff. And then while I was in school, I interned at Walt Disney Imagineering for a year or so. And then I also interned at Hollywood Pictures, which was a Disney studio for a while. And then I also interned with Hans Zimmer at formerly Media Ventures, now Remote Control. They're actually right down the street from me here
You can hear the
in
space truck
Burbank.
horns once in a while when he's scoring.
Yeah, the truck horns and their ship horns.
Yeah, and also
Uh,
more French horns than anyone could ever want. Period.
right. Yeah, more horns. The more horns, the better. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
obviously your score is going to be better the more instruments you have.
yeah.
It's
It's a
just
Zimmer
like
method.
it's the law of large numbers. I mean, it's science, it's math. Like, just trust the math.
Exactly. Just put the CS80 in the corner.
But anyway, so I deeply regret not staying at Media Ventures and staying with Hans, because all the people that I interned with there are now very, very wealthy and well-known composers. And I languish in obscurity and poverty, relative poverty, compared to, like, the John Powells and Justin Burnett's and
Sure.
those guys. And yeah, so, but no, I'm mostly glad that I went on my own and did my own thing, because I got to do a lot of really interesting things. And then now I get to do music for theme parks and rides and shows and things like that, which is really what I do love. I do love doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. So let's talk a little bit about the jump from doing like film soundtracking into the themed entertainment soundtracking and design and sound design.
In terms of like, how did I get there,
How the
or
fuck did
what
that
are the
happen?
differences?
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I mean, we've been theme park nerds since since time immemorial. Since and I think that I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. But like, what was the catalyst when you're just kind of like, I don't really want to do this film stuff anymore. I want to do theme park stuff, or was that always there?
Well, I've always done theme park stuff since 1999. So let me back up a little bit. While I was in university, I was the assistant for a architecture professor named James Steele, and he was writing a book. I was taking his like history of architecture class, and he revealed that he was writing a book on themed entertainment, and I was just like, how can I help? Because like, here's all my books,
right?
And anyway, and I sort of became his assistant, and what I did was I very coldly and calculatedly went to all of the independent themed entertainment design companies as his representative, as this esteemed, tenured, published architecture professor from USC, and I'm coming as his emissary, saying like, we're doing this book, Mr. Steele, Professor Steele would love to have some, glossy 8x10s to, put in the book of your work and your art and your finished projects and blah, blah, blah. And the gates just opened. And so I realized this is my way in to meeting all of the people that I want to hire me after I finished college. And it worked, because while I was at then Landmark Entertainment, which is now called Legacy, formerly run by Gary Goddard, when I went there to get materials from them, I met Dave Cobb, who was I think he was a show writer at the time or something like that. So I don't think he was a creative director yet. And this is probably 1994, 95. And so I met him, and we became fast friends. And then 4 or 5 years later, he is the creative director of the Men in Black ride for Universal Studios Orlando. And they very, very far into production and construction and installation realized that they were not going to be able to use any of the music from the movie.
Oh, wow. It's like a licensing issue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Danny Upland wanted like literally $1 million to reuse that music for the reuse fee.
Wow.
And like the budget of the entire attraction was $80 million, which is a lot of money then for an attraction. Now $80 million for an attraction is just like, oh, what do you
jump change?
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck with your spinning flat ride. No, I'm kidding. It's still a lot of money, but
yeah.
If you were to do Men in Black today, it'd be a $200 million attraction.
Jeez.
So anyway, he called me. I was doing TV animation and video games at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and asked me if I wanted to do the music for this Men in Black ride, and I was just like, absolutely, I do.
Mm-hmm.
I was, 20, what was I, 26 years old, 27 years old,
Mm-hmm.
1999, yeah, 25, and I wish I could send you a picture to pull up to show you how silly I looked when I was 25.
Oh, I remember.
I was so thin. I was so young and thin. I was really thin. Like I was rail thin in 1999. I
Right.
probably weighed like 170 pounds. And anyway, so they hired this skinny kid who wears all black and then dyed his hair black to write the music for this $80 million e-ticket attraction.
Mm-hmm.
And so that totally launched my theme entertainment career. After that, I worked steadily in theme entertainment. I still did film and television for a while,
Mm-hmm.
up until about 2010. So 2010 was the year that I scored the film Frozen, not the Disney one, the one with the kids on the ski lift and the wolves and the whole thing.
The slightly bleaker version than.
Yeah,
Let It Go was not involved.
No, but they did let go and fall.
Yes, they did.
So this was after I scored a bunch of films for Aeroscope for Adam Green, like Hatchet 2,
Mm-hmm.
And then we did Frozen, and Frozen was accepted to Sundance, the film festival
Mm-hmm.
in Park City, Utah, which was a huge deal.
Oh yeah.
And then we for the first time ever, we sold out all of our screenings before the festival opened. That was the first time that ever happened for any film.
Oh wow.
And so like I thought this was going to be my big break. I was going to go to Park City and be discovered and get an agent and be rich and famous like my original plan. And so we all spent a lot of money to go to Park City and hang out with all the same people that we hung out with in LA, but for a lot of money in a different city. And then we screened the film like 13 or 14 times and had panels and guests and like to thunderous applause each time. And it was a big deal too because a lot of people got sick and had to leave the theater because it was like so visceral,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. And I was going to parties but like not really meeting anybody because we were like always just sort of like screening the film
Mm-hmm.
every day, sometimes twice a day.
Mm-hmm. So no chance to schmooze.
Right. So anyway, I left Park City really disillusioned because like I didn't meet really any other filmmakers. I didn't meet any other producers or agents, and nobody was seeking me out,
Mm-hmm.
and like when I go to a party or whenever it's like, oh, I'm the composer of Frozen, like, oh, cool. Like, and
what's your point?
yeah,
Yeah.
give me a job.
Yeah.
Give me a job now.
Money. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do
Literally nothing happened. I spent probably $5,000 to spend a week and a half in Park City, Utah, and like literally nothing happened. And I drove home. I drove home on my birthday, and I actually turned what was it, 30? How old was I in 2010? So 10 years ago. So I was 30. I turned 36 twice on my way home because as I drove from Utah through Arizona, the time difference changed. So I actually turned 36 twice on my way home, and it's the first time ever I've driven through Vegas without stopping.
Yeah. Wow.
I just drove straight home. I literally drove straight home from Park City, Utah, just in one go because I was just so bummed and just wanted to get home. And on that drive, I just decided, you know what? I'm done with trying to make it in film. That was my one chance because it was like a real movie. It was a good movie, and it was and then it was good. It's supposed to have a big wide release, like 3,000 screens domestically, and then Anchor Bay essentially shelved it. We were only on like 200 screens.
Yep.
And no one saw it, but it has a big cult following on streaming. I mean, I still get royalties and from all over the world for Frozen, and people watch it and like it, and the whole score is up on YouTube and has hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views. So and
I have an autographed copy of that score.
I don't.
Well, you sent it to me.
Actually, no, I have one. I do have one. I have one CD left.
Nice.
And there's some guy in Oklahoma who probably has a box of, probably there must be 100 left of them, and he just like, there's this whole like, the guy who ended up just supposedly distributing this thing like turned out to be like a criminal. So I don't know what happened to them. Next time I go to Oklahoma, I might just show up at his door and be like, yeah, just give me the rest of the CDs, and I won't take it. I won't sue you. But and so on my way home, I was just like, you know what? I give up. I'm not going to try to make it big in film anymore. I'm not going to, score these films for almost no money, trying to get that kind of exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And I just decided I made a 5-year plan in the 15-hour drive back from Park City to Los Angeles, and I just like decided, I'm going to have a new 5-year plan, and I'm going to pivot to themed entertainment exclusively. And within 5 years, like, be president of the TEA. And the TEA, for those of you who don't know, is the Themed Entertainment Association. And in the course of that 5 years, I probably could have been president, but I also realized that that was a horrible, thankless job that no one should want to do. So, because having known now so many board members and past presidents of the TEA, that is no longer a goal.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine.
Being music director of the Themed Entertainment Awards is just enough.
Yeah.
But the Themed Entertainment Awards are sort of like the Oscars for themed entertainment, but more like the Golden Globes, because you have dinner and everybody gets drunk. But unlike the Golden Globes, there's no surprises. Everyone knows who was winning
Mm-hmm.
already,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not really an awards show for like departmental awards.
Right.
It's we're just stroking off our clients and saying thank you for spending money on us, which is fine because everybody gets drunk and has a great time.
That's the important thing.
And lately it's coincided with Dapper Day, so everybody goes to Disneyland the next day, all still dressed in their tuxedos.
Yeah, from the night before, feeling a little crusty, a little drunk.
Oh yeah,
a little bit of some stains on the lapel, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, brrr, sexy.
Oh yeah, so sexy.
Escape Velocity. Thank you for the host. They mentioned that their high school classmate is Josh Gad.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, not that Frozen. It's the other one. It just added further shame and confusion.
Fucking
to my
Disney.
Anyway, so I decided on the way home from Sundance that I was going to essentially give up.
Yeah.
On film and television, and focus on theme parks, which I did, and that is literally, with very few exceptions, all I've been doing for the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've scored a few films, mostly because to help out friends, or films that I've made or helped make, or quick and dirty stuff just for some quick cash that my name is not even on. So,
sure.
But certainly not like seeking out anything or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, and it's fine. I've done a lot of really, really cool stuff. I've gotten to travel to some really interesting places.
Yeah, you have.
And meet a lot of people who've become really good friends. And it's a great community. It's a small community, considering how far flung everybody is, and how spread out all of our projects are, and how big and expensive they are, and how many people consume them and are entertained by them. It's a surprisingly small group of people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably.
How big of a, for want of a better term, community is like the sound design and music world for themed entertainment? I mean,
there's probably 5 or 6 people that do everything. Yeah, wow. It's including myself. There's me. David Kniper does a lot of the big stuff, like for Universal and Disney. He did Pirates and Shanghai, did Transformers and Universal. He's sort of like the John Williams sort of theme park music. It's just he's the top level.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Brian Yessian, who does a lot of work, and John Baker, who's a friend of mine. We've worked together before. He's a producer and composer and songwriter. And he does a lot of he does the site mixes for a lot of shows that I do.
Mm-hmm.
I site mix rides, and he site mixes shows. It's a different thing, really different thing.
I can imagine.
he does rides too. He does a lot of site mixes for rides.
Hmm.
But let's see who else. Lou Fagenson worked on Warner Brothers World with me, and Carl Johnson does a lot of stuff as well. Carl recently scored half of the new Looney Tunes cartoons that came out on HBO Max.
Okay.
He's a TV animation composer primarily,
Mm-hmm.
that did a lot of Disney stuff. I think he did the Winnie the Pooh series and some other things like that. So he's sort of like the live orchestra guy that people go to, and I'm sort of like the dead orchestra guy that people go to. But yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of people. I mean, I'm probably leaving some people out, but yeah, I mean, it's what's funny is that like there's not a lot of projects out there that open every year, and
Right.
especially like now, it's like RIP the themed entertainment industry after 2020. I mean, it's with all the parks closed or closing or have closed or not opening for the foreseeable future. It's going to really have a really big impact domestically
Sure.
on my work, and especially yesterday with the announcement that Universal's Epic Universe, their fourth park in Florida, was unceremoniously canceled
Oh, I didn't know about that.
a year after it was announced.
Wow. Drink to that.
And then the 600 people that were working on it were laid off.
Kicked off. Yeah. Oh my God.
And it's rough. It's really rough right now in themed entertainment. I'm very lucky that I have some ongoing projects that will take me into next year. But I'm optimistic for the Asian and European market because Asia is already bouncing back from coronavirus. They're all opening up, and I think tonight was the first castle fireworks show at Shanghai.
Oh wow.
Since they reopened, so they've figured out how to do that, and I think that a lot of the Chinese projects in those parks that were sort of paused earlier this year are going to pick back up, and that's kind of the stuff that I mainly work on. I don't work on a lot of Disney and Universal stuff. I work on mostly the independent stuff that's in like China, UAE, like the Warner Brothers World in Abu Dhabi that I worked on. I worked on that for almost 3 years. Wrote about a third of the music for the park and did a lot of the sound design.
That's crazy.
So, yeah. And then John Baker, who I mentioned, did site mixes with Ears Up with Matt and Mark over at Ears Up. They did all that integration over there. It's a lot of work. They were there for months and months and months.
Holy crap.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, now I do theme parks. I do, big lagoon shows like last year's Marathon of Mayhem, Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando, and another show that was for Halloween Horror Nights that was just canceled. And we found out that that Horror Nights was canceled the day that we finished the show.
Of course.
Yeah. So it's just like that morning, like we were gonna like make some small changes and then deliver the show, and that morning we heard that it was all canceled, and it was just like,
never mind.
Yeah, I don't know if you can't see from here, but like I've got a bar over here. So yeah, we hit that pretty hard in the morning. Yeah, that morning that sucked.
Yeah,
they sucked. That was last Friday. That was a week ago. Anyway, but yeah, I think I love working on themed entertainment projects. I really do. It's a lot less work for a lot more money.
Yeah.
Than what I was doing before.
Which is interesting because you mentioned, I mean, there's it sounds like some of the stuff there's a hell of a time commitment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the development process for a theme park ride can be anywhere between 6 years on the high end for like a Disney or Universal project. Not so much Universal now, but like a Disney project. To like pretty quick burns. Like I did a couple of little dark rides that were 12 months from concept to opening.
Wow.
Which is pretty quick for a theme park ride, even a small dark ride with media-based dark rides. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot more technically complex than writing for film and television, but in general, you're writing less music, but
Mm-hmm.
you're writing it and you're writing it and you're rewriting it. And there's a lot more ears on it, I think, than like an independent film, because
Mm-hmm.
you've got my clients, which are the design and production companies like a Thinkwell or the Hedema Group or Mitsuker Entertainment or any one of those, or Universal Creative. So you've got them, and then you've got all the owners and operators. They want to have notes, and then whatever creative team that they have on the park end is going to weigh in on, and have very unsophisticated opinions generally about ideas about what the music should or shouldn't be, or especially Chinese clients. Every Chinese attraction that I've ever worked on, they start out like, we want a Western style film score like Hans Zimmer
Right.
for our ride.
Mm-hmm.
And then it always morphs into, we really just want some Chinese music. But like in a Western film score style,
Right.
like in instrumentation at least.
Right.
But you start to do these, you start to give them what they want, and like, I know this road well. I know we're going to
Mm-hmm.
go down this road, and this first version is just going to go away, and we're going to turn it into something way more Chinesey.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's there's a lot of cultural interface with that whole thing too. But it's interesting that they go to you and they tell you that they want this, and then they come back and they say, we just want it to sound like Chinese music in a way, and then you just go roll with those punches and be like, all right, I'll make some Chinese music then.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
well, what I always say is like, that's your thing. You hired me to write music for your thing.
Right.
This is not my artistic expression.
Right.
This
is a job.
This is a job you've hired. I'm a hired gun. I'll shoot whoever you want me to shoot.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just like graphic design, as SenseNet mentioned there. It's just like, I'm hired to do a job. This is not my.
Yeah, it's like the first pass. The first pass is like, here's my opinion of what it should be, and that's really what you're paying me for. You're paying me to give you my opinion about what the music should be for your attraction or your show, and then it goes from it just morphs generally into 10% my opinion and 90% their opinion.
Right.
And then I just execute that. I mean, sometimes there's great clients that are just like, they just love what I do, and like they hire me for a reason. And I've had a few projects like the Lionsgate project that I did with a VR coaster for based on the Gods of Egypt movie that no one saw.
Yeah.
And you should not see it.
No, it was horrible.
I had to watch it several times.
I'm sorry.
And boy, was there a lot of potential for like cool, like Egypt punk, ancient Egypt punk kind of stuff. And it's just, and it looks great. It's just garbage movie though.
Yeah.
The ride seems to be a lot of fun though, because basically it's a roller coaster like Space Mountain, but you get in and then you wear this VR headset, and so you see, like you're flying through ancient Egypt and shit. But like my friends Gavin and Jason Fox, who were the creative directors at Frame Store, who created the media for it, like they happened to be in Los Angeles when I had finished the first pass, and like they came to the studio and I played it for them, and they're like, "We love it. This is great. No notes."
Like, here's your invoice.
Yeah,
Bye.
exactly. Invoice. But then it turns out that they were not the only ones who were in charge of that.
Right.
And so in the coming months, Matt Parker from Thinkwell, who's still a good friend of mine and a great creative director, came in, and he had different ideas because Lionsgate had different ideas, and they all had notes, and everybody had notes. And in the end, they wanted it to sound more like the Marco Beltrami score for the movie, which was not very exciting, but had a good enough theme, so we ended up like ditching the theme that I wrote and replacing it with the theme from the movie, which I was originally told to not use. So anyway, there's things like that happen. It's just like, but it's just 2 minutes of music, 2.5 minutes of music, for, powers of 10 more money than I will get paid to write a 90-minute film score for independent film.
Okay. Yeah. Cause that's the thing is I mean, people don't realize that how short these things are anyway. Like average theme park ride is only like 2 or 3 minutes long.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
well, coasters are 2 or 3 minutes,
Yeah.
but like an average theme park dark ride is about 5 minutes or
Okay.
so, five to
Yeah.
6 minutes.
Right.
Um,
It's not like the
like
Haunted Mansion, which feels like it's an hour, but
Haunted Mansion is like 12 minutes,
it feels like it's so
and
long.
Pirates of the Caribbean is like 16 minutes.
Mhm.
In actually no, I think it's longer than that. It's like 18 minutes.
Wow.
But yeah, it's long rides. But like like Men in Black, I think is only like 2 or 3 minutes.
Hmm.
But it feels like an eternity when you're on it.
Yeah. Especially as yeah. But I think it's also interesting
I'm
that
like,
I mean, there's also like folks need to there's also the incidental music and stuff like that, like the in modern theme parks especially with like the lines. There's music
oh
in the
yeah, this
background,
the
sound design, everything like that. It's all part of that too.
yeah, that's the BGM, and that's really where the bulk of my work is on
Hmm.
an attraction. I mean, it's like yeah, I do. Like, it's funny. It's funny how like when I was working on
Hmm.
Warner Brothers World in Abu Dhabi, I did the Justice League ride,
Hmm.
which is basically if you've been to any Universal park, it's literally like Transformers, but with
Right.
the Justice League instead of Transformers.
Hmm.
And like I had to write all the music for Metropolis, the BGM in Metropolis, the whole land, and then the BGM for the queue for the attraction for the Hall of Justice, and then like all this other stuff,
Hmm.
and it was like almost an hour of music for all the area music, and then like the music for the ride ended up being like less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And like everybody's just like I was spending a lot of time, like months and months, on this hour of music, and they're like, well, we're gonna work on the ride, I'm like, everybody calm down, I'll score this ride in like 3 days, because it's like 3 minutes of music.
Right.
Like in their mind it's like that's the big deal, like it's the
Hmm.
ride, right?
Hmm.
And in my mind I'm like, well, there's all this other stuff that has to be done, and like the ride is just this tiny little component
Oh yeah.
of the larger scope of my work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and writing music for a dark ride is really complicated. But I got lucky in terms of the Justice League ride and other rides as well. And increasingly, they have these very sophisticated animatics that are like full renders of the entire ride.
Hmm.
Ride throughs that are using the CAD and building information model from the actual site. So like it's a virtual recreation of the actual space and the timing of the vehicle, and then it's all rendered. The media is all rendered onto the screens with the
Hmm.
same timing. It's like literally down to the frame,
Wow.
exactly the same as it's going to be on site.
Hmm.
So I just scored through that, and then basically post scored this animatic like you would like a film, like a scene in a film.
Hmm.
And then that was great for approvals, and it was great for recording, but certain elements of it. And then what I had to do is like chop it up into these 15-second, 20-second long pieces
Hmm.
to put on the media.
Right.
So it becomes very technically complex very quickly when you're dealing with doing scoring for dark rides and media-based dark rides, especially.
So, how much creative input do you have with certain parts of this? I mean, obviously writing the music and everything like that. And there's a reason why I'm asking this, and basically, something that I noticed a long time ago when I was in Universal Florida is it was like right around the time when that Harry Potter section of the theme park came out, which was really poorly designed, I think, in many ways. There's a little surprise.
The
Hogwarts thing.
Hogwarts?
Well, whatever they call that whole area, because you had to walk
Yeah.
like a half a
Hogsmeade.
mile through the wastelands of Jurassic Park to get there, and there was like literally nothing for quite some time. I mean, this is a while ago. I'm sure it's been changed around and stuff like that. But and then the actual Hogwarts ride itself was pretty bad. And the reason why I thought it was pretty bad was the audio was absolutely horrible.
Yeah, the audio is an issue on that attraction. I think the attraction itself is amazing, and it was
Mhm.
a groundbreaking attraction in many, many ways.
Mhm.
Because you're sitting on the top of a Kuka arm
Yeah.
that's on a track.
Right.
So the robots that build cars and shit.
Yeah.
Instead of having a welding tip or a cutting tip, it's
They
got
have
this
ride
bench.
cars.
Yeah, and it just gets throwing you around.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the reason
Yeah.
I mean, it was interesting because I had a friend of mine that rode the ride with me, and he had never seen a Harry Potter movie. And he rode the ride, and he was like, "I don't know what the fuck this was about at all.
Yeah.
It was confusing. There was a
What just happened to
dragon.
my body?
Yeah, it was confusing, and there was a dragon. Is that what Harry Potter's about?" And I said, "Pretty much, yeah." Uh,
But yet the audio on that is really challenging, and
Yeah.
and
I'm sure it's a lot of it's
uh,
like a lot of it felt like it was acoustic because it looked like it was probably a pretty large space that you're working in,
well,
and
all of the audio, for the entire attraction is on board. It's
right.
in speakers, and it's in speakers that are behind you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting audio for things that are clearly in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
like the screens. So when you go
Mm-hmm.
into the carousels, screens, and other characters and things like that. So like almost all the audio for things that are happening in front of you is coming from behind you. And
Mm-hmm.
they try to do some psychoacoustic things with like the binaural kind of stuff to trick your ear into thinking that it's in front of you, and it just
Right.
ends up sounding kind of echoey.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think
And
that
it's
was
also the speakers are like this big,
right.
so there's not a lot of dynamic range or frequency range, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
like the audio is the weakest part of that attraction by far.
Yeah.
I think, and Gringotts, Escape from Gringotts, I don't know if you've been since the Diagon Alley opened 5 or 6 years ago now.
Yeah. No, I've not been there since.
That's a more standard kind of coaster, and so the speakers are like this big, like
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 inches, and they're in front of you,
Right.
and there's subwoofers in the car, so it's rich and full, and you can hear the audio that's happening in front of you.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, it was like
But yeah, I
I was
agree.
comparing that one to like the Spider-Man ride that was also there, and
Yeah.
that sounded great. That was a very similar kind of experience as far as a ride's concerned, and but that one sounded fantastic, and you can actually understand what the hell was going on, and everything like that.
Yeah, because the speakers are right in front of you.
Right, but I'm just like wondering, like,
Yeah.
how much control as as a composer do you have as far as that kind of like, as far as like the audio? How are they going to experience this? I'm sure that that's a lot of it's budgetary and stuff like that, but
Well, here at Pachinko Media, we have control over the entire process.
yes,
No, so that's one of the reasons I started my new company 2 years ago was that so that I could have more control over that,
mm-hmm.
so that I could take control of the audio systems design for attractions myself, and with my team and my colleagues that are the actual systems designers. So like normally as a composer, I'm just like I just have to like play the hand that I'm dealt.
Mm-hmm.
Like here's the ride vehicle, here's the system, you put your media on it and try to make the best of it.
Right.
But as a composer, it's like, yeah, you have no control over the playback of your stuff. It's just like it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Which is one of the reasons that I've tried to get into doing more audio systems design consulting and doing the audio packages. I'm doing that right now for a park in China with my clients at Ultraface in Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
And they've entrusted me with we designed the entire audio system for this interactive dark ride.
Nice.
So I literally got to decide where the speakers were going to be put
Mm-hmm.
For the offboard audio, and then working with the ride vehicle manufacturer to spec up the speakers in the actual vehicle. There's a lot of speakers in these vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, as a media designer now, I have a lot more say in projects like this, where I actually am contracted to help design the audio systems.
Okay, that's cool. I think that I really think that that's an important part of it. I mean, it's long gone are the days when, you just had to have Judi Dench talking into the speaker behind your head as you go up Space Mountain, or not Space Mountain, but Spaceship Earth, and that kind of thing. And it's because I think that because the themed entertainment industry is developing more interactivity and that kind of thing, there should be more immersive systems than cheap little speakers behind you kind of thing.
Well, gone are the days really of offboard audio
Mm-hmm.
for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Like you go on Spaceship Earth, and it's just like the only thing that's coming out of the speakers in the vehicle are the narration and the music, and then like there's a ton of sound effects and dialogue happening off board,
Mm-hmm.
and coming from off-board speakers in the scenery, speakers near the animated figures and things like that. The thing is that there's so like, basically whenever you have an attraction with an animated figure, you've got to have audio coming directly from that figure.
Right.
And the trend lately in the last 10 years or so has been uh, towards a lot more towards media-based attractions, the screen-based attractions like Spider-Man,
Mm-hmm.
like Transformers, like Gringotts, Escape from Gringotts, and Fast and Furious, and King Kong, like
Mm-hmm.
the list goes on, and even like Smuggler's Run at Galaxy's Edge and at Star Wars Land.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, even though that's a lot more tactile and interactive than average screen-based attraction like the Star Tours or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the Secret Life of Pets is going to open when Universal Studios Hollywood reopens, and I think there's over 100 animated figures in that ride.
Wow.
So, and then also another really good example of offboard audio and having more control is there's the one show scene in the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs mine car ride
Mm-hmm.
at Magic Kingdom in Florida and Shanghai. And you roll into that scene and you are just like enveloped by the sound of the music and
Mm-hmm.
the voices, and
Mm-hmm.
it all just sounds so incredibly smooth and velvety, and there's no gaps in the sound field at all.
Yeah.
And so the technology is there to create fully sonically immersive experiences, but it's very expensive, it's very time consuming. It's a lot easier to just have speakers in the cars produce all the audio.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's. I mean, I've noticed that trend going away more and more because I mean, if you want that immersion, then the sound should sound like it's coming from something other than a speaker in your car.
Right.
And that's just. I mean, that's just kind of standard kind of thing. Paul Torlo said that he visited the Jarvik Viking camp ride in York, UK, and they recreated Sounds Okay there, but the big selling point was recreating the smells. I want to know if that's a theme park feature anywhere else, and it definitely is. I mean, the good the fresh baked cookies down Main Street at Disneyland.
Sure, and the Rome burning sulfur smell in Spaceship Earth is another famous one.
Yep.
And then on Soaring Over California and Soaring Over the World, they have like when you go to the orange groves, they have the orange smell, and the pine forest, you have the pine smell. And when that ride was operating for so many years, and like the whole ride vehicle just smelled like California. It was like there was no differentiation between the orange and the pine smell, and it was just that's the California smell. But yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of attractions that use smells. I think it's an underused storytelling device in the Green Lantern attraction at Warner Brothers World Abu Dhabi. They use a lot of smells because you fly through like these floral planet. You smell this fresh flowers, and then you end up with the yellow fear monster, and it has a smell too. It's like when it's roaring at you, you smell its like acrid breath. Yeah, that's a sort of Soarin' style ride where you're on the bench that moves and you get shoved into the big dome. But yeah, I think that it's a tough technology to work with. It's tough on maintenance.
Oh yeah.
But I think that it's very effective when used correctly.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear how they're doing all that kind of interactivity and stuff like that. When I was on Soarin' in California.
But Soarin', Soarin'.
Yeah, it wasn't a very exciting ride, I gotta say. The best part about it was hearing Patrick Warburton talk to me. But
yeah, nice work, pal.
Yeah, just like
my housemate Nathan does the perfect spot on Patrick Warburton, and he's just like around the house or whatever. I'll wash the dishes, and he's like, "Nice work, pal."
Just keep thinking of Brock Sampson from the Venture Brothers, which
yeah,
the best show ever.
The early seasons. The early seasons of Venture Brothers are really great.
The last couple seasons got a pretty, I don't know, neurotic, more so, and I really enjoyed them, but they got pretty heady. But yeah, I've spent way too much time dressing as Dr. Girlfriend for Halloween one year, and and then the next year I was Sergeant Hatred. which my stepson hated because he was Dean Venture and I kept on talking about his corn niblet toes in that Sergeant Hatred voice. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Sergeant Hatred. We're here to talk about you. So let's talk a little bit about some of the, like, because I'm always kind of curious about like you're talking about how like the offboarding technologies and stuff like that. And when you're creating the music for these things, so in my mind, and this is probably not at all how it happens, right? But in my mind, I'm imagining that you're literally sitting on a ride with a like Arturia, Keystep Pro in your lap and a laptop strapped next to you and a pair of headphones scoring as this thing is going.
That's what happens on the site mix. Yeah, when we go and we integrate all the final audio onto an traction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's literally it. Yeah, that's what happens. But in the old days before we had very very sophisticated VR technology and computer modeling of the attractions, which we have now, which makes it very easy much easier to work on audio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like Richard Bellis, the composer and arranger of the music for the Indiana Jones adventure at Disneyland, tells a story of like riding this vehicle as it's like trundling through the attraction, and he's like got a stopwatch and he's trying to like write down the timings of each cue, and they had to go through it like 15 or 20 times before he finally got it.
Wow.
And then that was it.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
yeah, it can be challenging, but like nowadays, everything is mocked up virtually and everything like that, and it's a lot easier than it used to be. It's still, technically a lot more complex. The show scenes are short. You've got a short amount of time to sell the story, whatever is happening on screen with the characters and the story, and it maintains some consistency of style and character and theme. It's funny is like there's a lot more thematic material in attraction scoring than there is on film and television, because now all film and television scoring is just like incidental music, and it's just like you're just there to create tension or support action. There's outside of Marvel films, there's very little thematic material.
Interesting. I never, I don't watch as many movies as I used to, but I guess I can see that nowadays.
But yeah, I mean, and like with BGM, I a lot of my work is in doing background music, area music, like the music you hear when you're waiting in line or walking through a land or whatever. It can also be very technically complex. I just finished up just this week. I finished up a BGM track for as an addition to a track that I did 5 years ago, for SeaWorld Australia. There's a little Nickelodeon themed sort of neighborhood, land kind of thing, where there's like Dora the Explorer, SpongeBob SquarePants, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and they're all so close together that I created this BGM tracks that was basically like there were 4 2.5-minute tracks. And each one of the little neighborhoods characters had it played that song in a different style.
Oh,
so that when you
turn the corner, you don't notice the music changing.
Right. It's the music continues, but in a different style.
Interesting.
And so I did that, and I just added Paw Patrol to those tracks 5 years later. Crack open the old sessions and teach myself the music that I wrote 5 years ago, so that I can, do it in this, non-block to the tempo and the key and everything like that. And so yeah, that's, it's a lot more technical things like that, and technical and highly specialized than, straight ahead media scoring.
Right. And how do you think with like the more, like, for instance, I'm going to use like Galaxy's Edge as like the prime example right now, that immersive system where the rides are, one thing, but the experience is really the point of it. I think that it's such a new concept for a lot of folks. I think they go there and they expect it to be like, crazy rides, but it's really the entire fact that you're walking into a simulation of, this, completely fake world kind of thing.
Yeah, the
And
land is the ride.
exactly. And your interactions within that land, become part of that whole thing. And is that something that you think is gonna be like? Is that something that's part of like what's going to be happening more and more?
Not anymore, because theme parks are IP.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think you'll see that kind of capital expenditures
Yeah.
on that level.
How much did they dump into Galaxy's Edge? Do you know?
I do.
Like $1.50 or maybe more than that.
Yeah, it was $2.50. No, I don't know what the public number was, but they said, it's in the billions.
Wow.
Each one. It's like, the first rule of government spending: why build one when you can build two for twice the cost? Why? So, I mean, yeah, they built two almost identical lands, and, they spent billions of dollars on them.
Yeah.
And, all of it is, contains groundbreaking technology. The Smuggler's Run is a live rendered game engine.
Yeah, I know they're using it's the same stuff that they're using with The Mandalorian.
Yes, yes, exactly. And there is some overlap there. Live rendering in the Unreal Engine using banks and banks of these super high-end Intel graphics cards. It's incredible. I don't think anybody realizes really what's going on technically when you're on that attraction, because it's kind of like you're on rails, but not really, because you're still controlling the path of the ship and what have you. But it's live rendering photoreal, computer generated images, and it's fully amazing.
So is the music? I've not ridden it. I've not been there yet, because if I go there, I'm probably going to cry a lot and
get the coronavirus.
Well, that too. Well, if I go to the one in California, no one's there right now, so just gotta sneak in.
I mean,
and then I gotta seek asylum while I'm there too. So
seek asylum in California.
Seek asylum and buy two.
Oh,
yeah.
So I mean, it's funny. We're going to talk a lot about Galaxy's Edge in my class that I'm going to teach in 2 weeks, and we're going to talk about it in that first class because it's kind of like I have a lot of complex feelings about the way that they executed the audio for that entire area and that land and the attractions and stuff like that. And I still have not been on Rise of the Resistance. I was going to go the week everything shut down.
Oh.
Because anyway, so I haven't been on it. I know a lot about it. I know more than I'd like to. Excuse me. And so my main issue with Galaxy's Edge, it is a absolutely stunning, beautiful place, and the art direction and the production design and everything and execution of all the scenic elements and the rock work and everything is just like off the charts. But there's no music to speak of in the land. There's no BGM. There's no like Star Wars music. Like when you come around the corner and see the Millennium Falcon, there's no music, like Star Wars music, which I really take issue with. I think that's that's something that's really tragically missing from that land, is that emotional component of the Star Wars music, that iconic, any part of the iconic John Williams scores is largely just missing from the entire land. I mean, you get some of it in Smuggler's Run, and you get the theme you get some of the music in Rise of the Resistance. But in terms of like the land, they went for like full on like Westworld realism, where it's like, well, you're really here.
You're not going to have the background music.
There's no music in real life. There's no background music, and then what music there is, it's coming out of like radios in the market and stuff like that, or a radio show in the bathrooms, things like that. But otherwise, outside of the attractions, there's no music.
Right. I think that because movies like that, music is such a character.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's to the point now where it's like, if you took the Millennium Falcon out of Galaxy's Edge, it could be like any sci-fi land without the music.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
But in the Savvy's workshop that where you build the lightsaber, there's the Force theme. There's the heavily stage managed music cues and things like that that happen that give you a lot of the emotion that you need to build your lightsaber, and that's appropriate and great. But like otherwise outside it's just sound design of like ships flying over and landing, and just out of sight. You hear things happening, and the inside of the buildings. And then when you go into Oga's Cantina, there's the music playing in the cantina, but like just walking around in the area, there's just like sound design. And I don't know, I think that I think that's a big mistake.
Yeah that's kind of weird,
because I thought I was going to be very emotional when I walked in and saw the Millennium Falcon as well, but I literally felt nothing. I was like, oh, there it is, it's very large.
This is Star Wars land.
Yeah.
That's interesting because, like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you might have worked on this. So a number of years ago, Lori and I went to Kennedy Space Center, and we went to the Atlantis exhibit. Now, did you work on that?
I did.
Okay.
I did the sound design for it. John Baker had the audio contract for that, and I think Gordon Goodwin wrote the music for that. He's a Grammy Award-winning composer and arranger. He's got a Grammy Award-winning jazz band called Gordon Goodwin's Big Fat Band. And but he's a great composer.
So I got to say, fuck you, because when that reveal happens, Lori and I like bawled our eyes out.
Oh yeah, it's very emotional, and it's the music.
Yeah, exactly. It's the whole the whole production was that was probably one of the most amazing produced shows I've seen, especially when it comes to like it's a fucking space shuttle, right? Yeah. And like we that's one of the things that we're doing as we go. One of our hobbies is we try to go see all the space shuttles. So we went to DC. It was just like, yeah, there it is, just sitting static, and we're like, it wasn't as exciting as like Atlantis. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that the show was written and produced by Adam Bezark and the Bezark Company, another good friend of mine, and I think Mousetrap did the media for that. I'm pretty sure that was really slick.
Yeah, Susan Beth was the producer, and Adam wrote it, and Gordon did the music, and John mixed it all. And then I was brought in at the very end to sort of like rescue the sound design, because somebody else did the sound design, I think.
Sound design was phenomenal. I mean,
yeah, it's like all the
rumbling fun times.
Yeah, and the sonic boom, was a lot. It was really interesting to create.
That was really slick. So yeah, folks, when things are, if everything comes back to normal and Western civilization does not collapse between now and then, do yourself a favor and go out to Kennedy Space Center and check out the Atlantis exhibit, because it is fucking just like amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a great museum experience.
It absolutely is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, of course you process through the attraction, you go through the different theaters and stuff, and then the final reveal is just like, but then like, the actual museum itself. Then there's the BGM that's based on the music from the show that you watch. Then there's BGM in the museum based on that as well, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah, they did such a good job.
It's so beautifully integrated, and that's when music and media and storytelling and scenic and displays and all that all firing on all cylinders, it's extremely effective.
Yeah,
making you feel emotions about a hunk of metal.
Exactly. And even like going down into like where they have like the the Columbia and the Challenger stuff and everything, and how they progress that audibly and visually and stuff like that. That whole experience is just like, it's a fucking roller coaster of its own making, and it's a museum. It's not like a ride or anything like that, but it's just such an amazing thing. And it's a totally a very effective exercise on how to create a themed media across the board.
I mean, it's like, I think that's a really good example. And I'm glad you brought that up. I as is typical, I often work on stuff and I forget that I did it. And somebody reminds me, oh, you worked on this. I'm like, yes, I did. But I mean, just like to wrap up the Galaxy's Edge BGM issue, I get that, create certain kinds of creative directors, want to create certain kinds of experiences, but everyone knows that they're in a theme park. You went to Disneyland for the day. You had to walk through all of Disneyland to get to Galaxy's Edge. There's no like real verisimilitude,
Mm-hmm.
because that you're in a theme park.
Right. Yeah,
You know,
it'll be interesting to see how that gets changed up when they like the crazy hotel concept that they're.
yes. Yeah. Will there be music in that? I'm
Right.
curious about that because, like, there's music in Star Tours.
Right.
There's always been music in Star
Right.
Tours. Um, but it's funny, and it starts at a really interesting point in the attraction too. It's like, the way that they sneak music into the pre-show is through the advertisements that they
Mm-hmm.
have,
Yep.
and otherwise it's just sound design and banter and things like the sound effects and things like that. And then then when you go into the droid room, they're listening to K-Droid,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you get onto the actual attraction, there's no music because you're actually going to space on
Right.
this spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, the moment the music starts is at light speed.
Yeah.
Light speed to Endor.
Yep.
And then and the music starts there, and it's like, yeah, I mean, you've got to have that cinematic experience, and like you said, the music is a character in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And to have that missing from a large part of Galaxy's Edge, I think, is over the over intellectualization of themed entertainment.
Interesting. That's an interesting term for that. The over intellectualization of themed entertainment. Yeah, it's like they're almost too clever for their own behalf.
Right. They're just being like, oh, well, you're really there. There's no music when you're really there.
Right.
It's like,
it's a goddamn kids movie.
Do you want a Star Wars or not?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like with the new story branching in Star Tours, and it's just like somebody is saying, oh, well, like, Hoth is not this and that. It's just like, okay, shut up. Do you want to go to Hoth or not?
Yeah, right. Yeah, calm the fuck
yes,
down.
you do.
It's a movie.
Yeah,
chill out.
Yeah, yeah. It's a movie for children
that we all love, and I understand.
Yeah.
And fandom is what it is. But yeah,
right.
And I'm a huge ridiculous Star Wars nerd, so it's
you see my poster there, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I mean, you've seen my poster, Yeah. Yeah.
And this is not planned either. I'm like, that's been there since I moved in. I put it there 2 years ago, and it hasn't moved.
Yeah, this has been here for since I put it there years ago as well. But yeah, it's I'm a ridiculously large Star Wars fan. Like I watch everything that they do, and I'm one of the people that sits there and says that Rian Johnson did a fantastic job in making a Star Wars movie, and people hate me for that. I don't really care.
No, I agree. I think that he did a great job too. I like that movie.
Yeah,
and Solo is one of my favorite Star Wars movies. I fucking love that movie.
I love Star Wars heist movies. They're just fucking great. Mm-hmm. And Rogue One was probably a masterpiece to me.
Yeah, the last 15 minutes of Rogue One are just like, oh my god,
yeah.
Like face melting.
Yep. John Haynes, thank you for the subscription and welcome back. Good thing that you can catch this on a video on my VOD for the next 2 months on Twitch, as well as it is being broadcast over to YouTube, where they are permanently archiving these talks and stuff as well. If you are just joining me, once again, I'm going to sound like Terry Gross. My guest today is Andy Garfield from Pachinko Media, who specializes in themed entertainment, music, and sound design. Andy is actually going to be doing a class coming up in a few weeks. Let's talk about the class a little bit.
2 weeks. 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I have not prepared at all.
So this will be great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So sign up to watch me struggle through a lesson. No. So my friend Morgan started along with the other people like the Bezark. So we're talking about Bezark Group, Bezark Company. Mm-hmm. I think is the underwriter for this inaugural season. She asked me to come and talk about music and sound design for themed entertainment as an introductory course.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of non-technical. I've probably gotten more technical in the last hour than I probably will on the course. And certainly in the future we talk about like gear and software and stuff like that, which we haven't gotten to
Oh,
yet,
yeah.
which is it's a short conversation actually. Um, what do you? I don't use very much. I like to keep it simple because I'm stupid. No, so the class is going to be really cool. We are going to talk about things like we in the same way we just talked about Galaxy's Edge with music, diegetic music, non-diegetic music, and sound design and diegetic sound design and all that kind of stuff. And we'll talk about what diegetic means. And the history of audio in themed entertainment, and not just theme parks, but like museums, like you talked about with the space shuttle, and then live shows and spectaculars, and interactive attractions and dark rides. And then we're also going to talk about a little bit more detail, some technical detail about what goes into actually getting the audio to your ears in a theme park setting, in a show, from a show or a ride. It's like how is that planned? We're going to look at some actual audio system design documents, so you can see what the planning stages look like. How much does it cost? It probably doesn't cost as much as you think it does for audio.
Interesting.
Hardware. When I started getting into this, I was always surprised. Like wow. I mean, the audio systems, like what we call the ROM, the rough order of magnitude for all the speakers and cable and everything is just $150,000. I'm like, oh, that's cheap, I guess, for the audio systems for an entire ride, But anyway, yeah, and then we're going to talk about that, and also there's going to be a class project. To anybody watching, I'll reveal now what the class project is going to be. I'm going to assign a video to each student, an on-ride video of an attraction, and you are to create a new soundtrack for that attraction.
Oh, wow. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be like professional level or anything like that. It's just like, even if it's just like, an experiment in like changing the tone of an attraction with different kinds of music or sound and things like that. It can be avant-garde and artistic, or it can be as realistic as you want to make it, or however technically comfortable you are with editing software and things like that. So
it's a 5-week class, right?
It is 5 weeks, 2 hours each Saturday. I think it's 3 to 5 on every Saturday.
That's 3 to 5 Pacific, correctly. Right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that's and there's a link. It just popped up just a minute ago up in the chat. So if you're interested in that, the link is up there. It's 150 bones, which is not that much for that amount of information.
Right. I would expect to pay $150 per session, not for 5 sessions. Yeah. I think it's a steal for sure. And I think this is I'm hoping this is going to be an introductory price, because this is the first year, the first session we're doing this for this new themed entertainment workshop, themed entertainment creative workshop series. I think that's what it is, the Tech WS. Yeah.
And I think also that folks can be looking at this class, not just if they're interested in themed entertainment, ride music and stuff like that, but also things like, video game music. If they're looking to compose for that kind of thing, even like, film and everything along those lines, just because it does give you an idea about like interactivity with music and stuff like that, which is really kind of the name of the game in modern rides, really.
Well, yeah. And I'm in the interactive ride course, I'm going to talk a lot about the overlaps in video game music and engines, because we're going to talk about this ride that I worked on 6 or 7 years ago called Dragon's Wild Shooting at Lotte World in Seoul, South Korea, which uses a game engine. It's like straight up, it's a game. If you've ever been on like Midway Mania at the Disney parks, it's literally just like that, where you're shooting at the screen and interacting with the media. So it is like all of the media is rendered in real time by a game engine, and you have to use sort of the music and sound in the same way you would with a video game, like where I have to make a bunch of one-shot sounds for like the hitting different things and characters exploding or popping in and popping out, and dialogue and vocal effects and things like that. All these tiny little sound files that the game programmer will then program into the game, and it works just like a game because it literally is a game. It's a PC. It's like a PC game.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of overlap, and then also you're in a moving vehicle, and then you roll out of the scene, and then there's other music that plays in between, and yeah, so there's a lot of overlap with video game industry as well.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of figuring, that kind of, especially like VR gaming and stuff like that, because that gets to me that gets very complex when you start doing like VR gaming, because you also have the surround aspect of things and stuff like that too.
It's funny is that I've done a little bit of VR work, and it's interesting to do that because trying to figure out how to say this. Doing any kind of VR is extremely complicated, especially from an audio perspective, because the POV is constantly changing.
Right.
And then you have to program it in such a way that this audio is stationary even though you move your head. So it's but and then like adding music to that is a whole thing too. And how does that sound, and how does it play, and where's it coming from? Is it coming from anywhere? All that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, especially if it's like the music is coming through something, but like the room you're in is not the same acoustically.
Right.
So if you're in a dripping underground sewer, does the music sound like it's coming through the sewer, or does the music still sound like it's coming through your head, kind of thing?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or in your pristine studio and that kind of junk.
That's where the term diegetic and non-diegetic comes from. It's like diegetic music is music that is coming from the world of the experience, like from a radio or from some other source in the world of the experience. Non-diegetic music is just straight up scoring. It's in your head.
Yeah, I noticed that like when I played the Star Wars VR game, Vader Immortal. I don't know if you play it or not, but amazing. I mean, it felt like a ride. I mean, first of all, because it is kind of very much like tracked. But it was, they did a fantastic job with the VR technology without making it too obnoxious like VR porn, which is really obnoxious if you've ever seen VR porn. It's fucking terrifying. But
well, I mean, the new Squadrons game that's coming out later this year, it has VR support, and that's going to be like
that's going to be amazing. Yeah, that's like Elite Dangerous level, which it's not tracked. It's just like you're free flying.
Yeah,
and I'm so excited about that one too, because I mean,
and I think there's going to be a score for sure, and score is just going to be there.
Yeah, and that's fine,
Yeah, because like you don't want Star Wars without Star Wars music,
right? Yeah,
cough,
right.
Cough.
Not mentioning anybody.
Anyway, yeah. So, yeah. So theme park music. So the class, sign up for the class.
Yeah, sign up for the class.
Watch me be wildly unprepared.
I can't wait. I'm going to sign up for it just because you're going to be wildly unprepared.
That's so sweet of you.
You can push the mute button on me the entire time when I'm like, "Why didn't you study beforehand, asshole?"
Yeah. Like, Andrew, Lent, would you sit down and sit
down? God, this is worse when we were in high school together. SenseNet.
Nothing's worse than that.
No, it's true. SenseNet, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time, so that's 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. So, let's talk the tech.
Yeah.
Let's start with what you got going on here. I'm actually going to pull up the view of your studio.
Oh yeah.
So this is your studio. This is Pachinko Media.
I don't see it.
I know you can't see it on your screen, but it's the photo that you sent me.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's the studio. So I'm sitting in that chair that's in front of the keyboard. So you can see behind me. You can see the basically what's behind the camera on that picture. So yeah, I have a really simple setup here. I like to keep it simple. A lot of composers have the big desk, with like the screens and then the speakers and everything like that. I opted for much bigger screen real estate. As you can see, I have a 55-inch 4K monitor is the central monitor, and then I have two 32-inch 1080 monitors flanking that in portrait mode. And so when I'm working on a project, the main screen is timeline and mixing console view on the bottom of the screen. And when you're sitting here at the keyboard, it looks like, in the picture, it looks like, oh, how could you see the screens? And when you're sitting here at the keyboard, I can see the bottom of all of the screens.
Yeah, it looks like it takes up pretty. It's like a cockpit view almost.
Yeah, it is, and it's really great. It's a lot because you're already looking down at your hands, and so then I literally don't have to move my head to see the timeline. I just shift my gaze up a little bit to look at the timeline, so I don't have to I don't have to move my head at all when I'm working, which is great. And then when I'm working, I have on the left screen I have picture if I'm scoring a picture, and then also sample. I'll have the instances of contact and sometimes, whatever. If I'm, I like to use isotope ozone for on my master bus.
Oh yeah,
master buses.
Ozone kicks ass.
So yeah, and I get a lot of flack for using a mastering software suite on my master bus, but whatever. I like it. It's a great tool. I also like the way the histogram works on the EQ. So anyway, and then on the right hand monitor, I generally just have like my email and Facebook and internet and shit, or any kind of reference or whatever. So, yeah, I use I'm using a custom built PC that I built in 2012.
High tech.
Very high tech. Well, it was top of the line in 2012, and the whole thing probably cost me $3,000 or $4,000.
Right.
It's a liquid cooled Intel i7 processor with 32 gigabytes of RAM.
Wow.
And I'm still running Windows 7. Because I'm 46 years old and I don't like change. No, because it is very stable, and I've had no reason to upgrade until recently. I'm starting to get a little bit frustrated with some of the limitations of Windows 7's 64-bit operating system, and it is Windows 7 64-bit. And then I use Cakewalk Producer 8.5, which I think is 10 years old now.
Back when Cakewalk was a thing.
It's still a thing. It was almost not a thing. It was very, very nearly not a thing
almost
anymore.
Before Fender, didn't Fender buy it or something like that? I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't even know. It's like,
I think it became some holding company's bitch or something like that. Of some
yeah,
kind.
yeah. Like first Roland bought it, and then Roland went out of business, and then I think Fender, I think you're right, bought it. Now it's owned by some. It's like a prosumer.
Yeah.
Kind of thing that is almost at the level of like a fancy garage band kind of thing.
Right.
But I've been using Cakewalk since 1994.
Wow.
When I used when you and I were working on music, I used the MS-DOS based sequencer called Texture.
Yep, I remember that.
By Motu, I think it was. Mark of the Unicorn made that. Those were their first pieces of software. It was like a 24 track, like super basic thing.
Yeah, I remember that being hooked into the M1.
Yes, yeah, the Korg M1. My first keyboard was the Korg M1. Anyway, so I use Cakewalk. So I've been using Cakewalk since 1994 when I transitioned to Windows 95. And Cakewalk, didn't even have audio. It was just MIDI. And the Cakewalk Pro Audio came around in like in 98 or 99. And then I've just been using it ever since and upgrading. And for a while, I got to know like some of the programmers and some of the management over there at Cakewalk. And they would do some custom shortcuts and stuff for me and things like that. And now it's just everybody's scattered to the wind and probably dead. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, and I use primarily day to day. I use Contact as my virtual sampler, and then I have terabytes of sample libraries. Cinesamples, Spitfire, all the typical usual suspects. The same thing everybody else uses.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then for when I need like synthy kind of sounds, I use Zeta. and that generally solves all of my synth problems. I rarely do anything else other than that. Like, in this show that I worked on recently that I shared with you, there's a lot of synth stuff in it, and that's all Zeta.
That's
it's
all
like
Zeta?
probably 10 or 15 instances of Zeta,
Wow.
just layered with different kinds of patches and things like that. And then I'll have 10 or 12 instances of contact open as well, with the different choirs of the orchestra. Like I have an instance of contact that's just the high woodwinds, like piccolo, flute, clarinet, oboe, English horn, things like that. And then another one that's just the low woodwinds, like bassoon, contrabassoon, and bass clarinet, and things like that. Then I'll have the next one will be, like, for instance, I use Hollywood brass and Synth Samples brass. So I have like the East-West play interface, and then another instance of contact with like Cinebrass trumpets and 90s trumpets, the new library that came out last year that was so great, where they recreated the exact conditions of the Jurassic Park scoring session.
Oh yeah.
With the same instruments, with the same players, in the same chairs, on the same stage, the same mics.
Oh my God.
Everything exactly the same, so that you basically have the trumpet section from Jurassic Park, which was literally a dream of mine. Like
oh yeah, I remember.
Like the guys over at Cinesamples, we must share a brain somehow, or certainly have the same level of taste and in terms of sound, because I think the Jurassic Park score is one of the best sounding scores ever written and ever recorded. Anyway, so yeah, I love the 90s trumpets are so great.
Oh yeah.
And
do you use Omnisphere at all?
Do
you use Omnisphere at all?
Omnisphere, no.
Okay.
But I'd use Elastic, the Uberschall. I use a lot of Uberschall libraries. There's a lot of Uberschall in that the show that I sent you as well. We start that as it's almost like an inspiration point, and then we slowly sort of phase it out, and program our own drums. And I'm saying we and our because on this show I'm talking about, I was very closely collaborating with the creative director Jason McManus on the show, and he is an accomplished musician and producer in his own right. And we literally sit here together and make it together. And I I'm like, he's much better at programming drums because he's a drummer. So I get up and he sits down and he programs the drums, and I come in and then I program the orchestra, and yeah, so it's all just contact and other players. And then my signal path is usually, just like tons of buses with different EQs and compressors and limiters. I use, like I said, isotope ozone on my master bus, and then I use it a lot as well on other tracks and buses as well, because I like the EQ on that a lot.
Yeah, it's a nice, easy to use system. I mean, that sounds great.
Yeah. And then I use the SSL compressor for the master bus for mastering and finish, which is a little compression, little compressive press,
little hug just on the way out.
Just glues everything together, and then right at the end of the signal path, I use L1 limiter. If I need to slam it, like with these Halloween Horror Night shows, it's just everything is super slammed.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you opened up the file that I sent you to look at it, but it's just like brick wall.
Hi. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, compressed much?
Yeah.
Actually, yes, thank you.
Bear hug.
But yeah, it's like, some heavy limiting, and it's L1's the Waves plugins, the limiters are so incredible. It's like you can slam so hard before you start getting distorted. It's it's kind of unbelievable.
Yeah, I've been using a lot of the PSP AudioWare plugins with like their limiters and stuff like that. They're pretty fucking phenomenal.
A new I mixed a movie for a friend last year, a teen dance movie called To the Beat 2 Back to School. And I use the new Acusonus plugins for noise removal, and that combined with the isotope noise removal, and it was I saved scenes or dialogue that I thought for sure we were going to have to ADR.
Wow.
And it's kind of unbelievable where processing has gotten. And then like right as I finished mixing that movie, they came out with the new ADR tool that like takes, you know, dialogue and like just rescues it completely. It's like, you know, you almost don't need ADR anymore.
Yeah, I saw that. That's insane.
Yeah, and I can't use that on my computer with Cakewalk because it's too old.
VST3.
And it's huh?
VST3.
Yeah, I can't use VST3 in my current setup, and like that's becoming a problem. And like I had a like a long weepy talk with my friend Jason just yesterday about how like, man, I need to just like I've needed to build a new computer for a while because honestly 32 gigs just isn't enough.
Right.
I'm still like, it's amazing, you know, how I've got 32 gigs of RAM, but I'm still going direct from disk.
Especially
some
with all
of the
the
sample
samples
libraries.
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the samples.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nuts.
And like when I have my whole template open, I literally have to close everything else in the computer. Like I can't have the browser open or anything like that
Right.
because it fills all the way, and there's no room for Chrome or anything like that at all. But yeah, so I'm going to build a new computer. I'm going to get a Scarlett interface. So if you pull up the picture of my rack,
the computer room.
so like just that direction right there on the other side of that wall, I have a little machine room that's kind of like a sort of just a hallway.
Yep.
And I've been using the same M Audio FireWire 410 interface since 2005 because you know, it works.
Yeah.
And it but like, you know, now, you know, I'd like to have a little bit more offboard processing in terms of, you know, the audio and effects and things like that. And also I'd like to, you know, be able to use a control surface with it.
Yeah, right.
Nice. So that I don't have to, like I said, walk into the other room to like change the input gain on the microphone.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to end up getting a Scarlett interface of some sort and a new PC. I'll build a new PC with, I want to put 128 gigs of RAM in the PC.
That would be enough, I think.
That should do it.
That should take care of it for a little while at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, another year or two.
Maybe I might even put 256 gigs in it. We'll see.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of solid state drives, and probably I might even just use the graphics card that I'm using right now. It's a great card for all these displays that I have. And it's, I mean, I can have 4K displays. So, and then I think I'm just going to probably go to Logic like everybody else. All my peers and colleagues all use Logic.
Wow.
So I think I'm gonna make the change.
I didn't realize that everyone was using Logic nowadays.
Yep.
Huh. Yeah. That's pretty interesting. I use Logic. I've been using Logic for years now. I'm actually switching slowly to Studio One.
What is that?
It's PreSonus's DAW.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It offers a little bit. I mean, Logic is immensely powerful. Don't get me wrong. And I'm still probably going to use it for most of my stuff, but I'm kind of experimenting with it. I have, you know, I like the fact that you can do certain things in Studio Logic. Like you actually have like a sketch pad kind of thing. And then you can just easily dump those things into your main DAW wherever you want to, kind of thing. So you can like work on little bits and pieces, and you don't exactly have to work linearly to get that stuff done. And I kind of like that idea.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to do that. I mean, I also use Pro Tools. Sometimes I have to deliver Pro Tools sessions,
right,
for mixes and things like that. And like, I barely know how to use Pro Tools. I know how to use it well enough that I can drag files into it and make assemblies and deliver a session, and like that's about it.
Right.
You know,
you don't want to work it as a composition tool.
No, and I know that it can be used for that, but like it's not really built for MIDI and scoring and things like that. It's mostly for recording and mixing audio.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, I mixed a Netflix movie last year. Like I mentioned, I mixed a Netflix movie on Cakewalk 8.5. You know, it still works and it's just fine, and I know it very well inside and out. And, but like I said, you know, there's some new tools that are coming out that I'd like to be able to use. Like I can't even use, not that I use it very often, but I would have liked to have used it on the teen dance movie. I can't use auto-tune natively inside of Cakewalk.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of an issue. I had to like, also Melodyne. I was using Melodyne to sort of like pitch correct some of the singing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. It's starting to become more and more difficult to function as a professional using this using this essentially prosumer audio
archaic machinery.
yeah it's like, like I told you, it's like I run a late 90s audio museum here.
But the same token, though, I mean, it's like I mentioned earlier, is that like, the tools work, right? And that's really all that matters. Is that you have, no matter what it is, if you're using the top of the line version of Logic or you're using, Cakewalk version 8, the shit works, and that's cool. We mentioned a little bit before that, before the show, about like, how you're faking, you're bullshitting the analog synthesizers, and I'm just like, who cares, right? I think in the end, it's like the person who's listening to the music isn't going to know the difference. Let's face it. I mean, especially nowadays. I mean, if you listen to stuff nowadays, a lot of the, even like the virtual analog synthesizers that they put out and stuff like that, you really can't tell the difference.
It's like you have the magnificent array of devices behind you there. It's just like, when I'm listening to your music, that's all that stuff is there for you, not for me.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I used to create stuff on. But no one's gonna. I mean, probably people that watch the show will be like, "Oh, what'd you use for this?" But for the most part, Joe listener is gonna be like, "That's cool," or "That's fucked up," or whatever. They're not gonna really care if you used a Moog synthesizer or a plugin,
right? Yeah, because you could. I mean, there's like 10 people in the whole world that can tell the difference by listening to it mixed in with other things.
Yeah, exactly. With all the other shit, and then you're running it through your effects and all the other thing, utilities and everything like that doesn't really matter in the end. It's just the tools of creation are there. You work well with what you're doing, and you work fast because of it. If it's going to take me 2 hours to like dial in a patch on my modular versus you just going, "Oh, I got the fucking sample that sounds just like it. I'm just going to dump it into Contact and play it. Fuck you." Then guess who's going to win that contest?
All day.
Yeah, exactly. So technology, like, what speakers are you using, by the way? I see.
I'm using, at the same time I got the audio interface, I'm using these KRK V8 Series 2s. I got these in 2005.
Yeah.
So I got these two in 2005, if you pull up the picture. So honestly, I've lost track of which ones are which. I think it's these two. And then when I started doing 5.1, I bought these other three. And the two behind me, you can see, those are my surrounds. And then I have the center speaker that's just above my monitor as well. And then I have two more backup speakers in the machine room as well, that I bought for super cheap and slowly fixed them up. So like, in case like I could lose these two speakers and have two others ready to go, because I have clients over, and there's a lot of I used to have clients over in the before times to review stuff, and that's when shit goes sideways, is whenever you have clients over.
Of
always
course, right?
That was when you have a crash, or a speaker goes out and your computer explodes, and that's why I build my own PCs too, is that like I can fix anything that goes wrong with my computer. I can fix it.
Right. And it's also why you put the bar there too. So when shit goes sideways, you can at least give them a drink while you're, taking care of business.
And that happened when I was mixing that Netflix movie last year. Shit went sideways frequently because the session was so big, and Cakewalk was just really struggling. And I had, there were 300 or 400 tracks of audio, and yeah, that's right, 300 or 400 tracks of audio.
How the fuck do you mix that?
Oh, it's not all playing at once.
Okay, I was gonna say
it's just it's just the lines of dialogue just like sort of staggered down. And by the time we got to the end of the movie, it was like really struggling.
Oh, I can imagine.
And would crash, and then I had to recover, and it was just like, drinks. Can I get you another drink? I'm like, oh, I got flight attendant,
right?
Like, peanuts, another drink. Yeah, so it just softens the blow a little bit.
Sure.
No, but no, we like our cocktails here in Burbank. It's a long history of entertainment and cocktails in this building, especially. The building that I'm in was the original production office for Laugh-In, the show
Oh, wow.
Laugh-In. So, like in the front office of this building, they had a full bar with a piano where they would get drunk and write the show and stumble across the street and tape it. Because
Oh,
I'm
my
right
God.
across the street from the old NBC studios.
Wow. That's not there anymore, is it?
Literally, you walk out my door and there's NBC.
Huh. Well, that's cool.
Like where they tape the Tonight Show and
Right.
Laugh-In and
Mm-hmm.
all that. Now it's called the Burbank Studios, and it's mostly owned by Blizzard. Blizzard has their big gaming arena there now. In stage one, where the Tonight Show used to play, is now the Blizzard gaming arena.
Really? Wow.
Mhm.
That's weird.
It is weird.
I mean, I haven't been to Burbank since 1990.
Wow.
1989, 1990. Yeah.
Wow.
When I was living out there. I think it was like when we had to go to when we went to the sitcom as part of drama club and watch the sitcom getting filmed. I think that's the last time I was in Burbank.
I think, did we go together? Was it the episode of Friends?
Yep. No, it wasn't Friends. It was pre-Friends.
Oh, was it? No, was it?
It was some like 2-seasoner, I think. I don't remember.
No, it was Head of the Class.
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We went to Head of the Class, and then later I went to see Friends too, and it was the episode that Bruce Willis was on too. It was a big deal.
Ooh, there you go.
But yeah, I mean, so that was all done at Warner Brothers, which is literally right down the street from here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could walk to Warner Brothers right now in 10 minutes.
Hooray.
And then I'd walk the other way to Disney in about 15 minutes. So I'm right in the middle. I'm literally the intersection of Olive and Alameda, which is considered the heart of the media district.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that there's a media district. That makes me laugh.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
back to tech real quick, as I wanted to kind of get an idea here, like the stuff that is like what's running the audio in the rides.
It varies wildly. It depends on what kind of ride it is. I like to spec the QSYS systems, the QSYS core systems, and the playback for media-based attractions. Then there's various video servers, and then there's Alcor McBride bin loops, which are just basically just these cards that you slot in, just can load up with any kind of audio or video.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it's an interactive attraction like an Ultraface ride, then the game engine, the music and the audio is coming from the game engine, and then that goes through the QSYS core system to get routed to the different speakers.
Okay.
And then if there's onboard audio, generally that's all done now over Wi-Fi.
Right. Really? Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So what will happen?
The giant tapes.
Oh, that's long gone. It's been gone for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And they were replaced by EPROMs. The tapes were immediately replaced by EPROMs.
Wow.
Which was one of my jobs when I worked at Imagineering in 94, 95, is I had to erase the EPROMs. They'd come in and and then you put them in this little box and you take the sticker off the top and expose it to UV light, and that's what erased them.
Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah. So yeah, it was one of the things that I did all day in the machine rooms, one of the machine rooms there. Yeah, so various things, and the Wi-Fi. So like the media will live on the car in a QSYS box, in like the trunk or the hood, and then what comes over the Wi-Fi is basically time code.
Okay. Oh,
telling it
that makes sense.
What to play when.
Right, because that's time code's so small anyway. It's not like you're broadcasting like the audio file. Okay.
Yeah, some sort of sync, clock sync, or just like play this now, play this now, play this now.
Interesting. Because I was kind of curious about that, how that works, especially with as interactivity continues, what they're using for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, mostly it's QSYS. It's like QSC audio. It's a core system. It's a whole suite of hardware and software that is essentially it's the Pro Tools of theme parks. That's an industry standard.
Yeah. So the how much of this stuff has really changed over the years since you've started doing this? I mean, obviously
obviously you started with
wiping EPROMs, but Like,
Well, I mean, theme park audio started, with just just magnetic tape
right.
playing, off of speakers, and nothing was synced up to anything really. And
Mm-hmm.
and then when they started doing interlocking with Small World was, I think, one of the first times they did audio interlocking between scenes and using a form of time code called show code.
Mm-hmm.
And then so you'd have all these, the big, like, refrigerator size, tape machines that would be locking to a world clock,
Mm-hmm.
so that when you floated through Small World, everything was like in sync.
Hmm.
And then they used it on Pirates, and then Haunted Mansion and things like that. And it was all just done on tape, and then they literally just took all of that media and put it on and digitized it off of the tape and put it onto EPROMs. And then you just had like banks of computers, with these EPROMs on it, and it would just play it back. But now it's all, it's not much different from the EPROMs in terms of, like, it's all just living in a memory chip,
Right.
like on an SD card or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a world where you can get a 256 gigabyte or like a terabyte SD card that's the size of your thumbnail.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's still blows my mind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Amazing shit.
But anyway, yeah, so I mean, now it varies widely from depending on the budget of an attraction and what kind of systems you can afford, and then like Bose makes a similar system to QSys, and we use that on the Popcorn Revenge ride at Wallaby, Belgium. That I mixed that ride and it just won a Thea.
Right, congratulations!
Actually, I had three Thea awards this year. One for Pachinko Media sound design at Warner Brothers World, and myself for the music at Warner Brothers World, and then for mixing the popcorn ride at Wallaby in Belgium. And so that was, I didn't have anything to do with the audio design at all. They literally just called me in to like remix the ride because I don't think they mixed it at all. I think it was just they just like installed the equipment, calibrated the speakers, and loaded up the media and pressed go.
Oh my God.
And they were just like, something's not right with this. And I'm like, what, did you mix it? And they're like, maybe.
What is mixing really?
Yeah. So then I flew out. I convinced them to fly me out there to let me show them what mixing is. And over the course of 3 or 4 nights, we mixed the ride, and now it sounds great.
Nice.
But anyway, and that's like they use this Bose system because like about a whole package of Bose, like all the speakers are Bose, and the servers are Bose, and the software is Bose. And it works. It's kind of like I kind of called it like a dollar store QSys.
Right.
It does. It's kind of like the difference between like Cakewalk Pro Audio and Logic or Pro Tools. It's just like it's the prosumer version of the real thing.
Right.
That you couldn't afford to use. But there's all kinds of ways to do that. I mean, now it's all pretty straightforward and standard. Technology has gotten to the point where it's like, playing back 4K video files and WAV files and stuff is just like, it's not an issue. It's no big deal. The bandwidth is wide enough. The memory is big enough. And
oh yeah. That doesn't really
when we're walking around with 256 gigabytes on our telephones,
right? Yeah,
that can take 60 frames per second 4K video.
Yeah.
The ride should be okay.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Totally. That's funny though. I mean, it's so weird to think about how that continues to evolve and everything like that. Media, how we consume media, and the size of everything and all that kind of jazz. So I just put, folks that are interested, I did put Andy's website for Pachinko Media up on the Twitch page, so you can check out the work that he has done and is continuing to do, because it's never going to stop. Work is eternal.
One hopes.
We will all die working and bleeding until we are dead.
I was just talking to some friends last night about how, like, I hope I'm not still doing this in 20 years. And that's part of the problem is that, you don't get royalties with most theme park stuff. So
right. That's why they pay more.
Except for, yeah. But I guess I should have been saving.
Well, what's the fun in that? I mean, just work till you die. That's my job. That's what I'm gonna do. 401ks. No. Once I'm not, once I'm no longer useful, put me in a canoe and shoot me with an arrow.
A Viking funeral.
Right into Lake Erie. It's a shallow lake, though. My body will wash up very quickly. So yeah, that's awesome. I really appreciate you coming and hanging out with us today.
Oh, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I can't believe how fast 2 hours went.
I know, right? This is what happens when you get together and you just start talking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think if there's anything that I've left out or anything like that. I mean, I was thinking about it when I was saying it. It's like I feel like it was kind of an oversimplification of the media systems that I just laid out. It's still getting everything integrated and working together and timing and with, especially when you've got moving vehicles and you've got triggers and timing things that are happening, and media loops and all this kind of stuff. It's incredibly complex.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I didn't mean to be so reductive about it, but like in terms of like the hardware, the hardware has gotten smaller and easier to use than it used to be, but like still on an attraction like Rise of the Resistance, or like we're talking like Forbidden Journey or Gringotts and stuff like that, the complexity of those systems and show control and life safety and audio and video and getting everything to work together it's unbelievably complex and takes.
It's insane. People don't even. I mean, and the thing is that it's transparent. People don't know. Right. People don't know how much goes into every little aspect of this kind of thing. They show up and they ride the ride for 2 minutes and they say that was cool or that was lame. They bitch about whatever, like I do. But they don't realize how, like you said, 6 years for some of this stuff.
Yeah, and we're gonna put you in a machine that could very easily kill you just to tell a story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just to entertain you for 2 minutes, you might die.
I like to say that themed entertainment is like using aerospace technology, but to tell a story. Yeah. So it's aerospace with filmmaking.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Which is
so you just added that whole level of complexity. You've got in some cases very, very complex and expensive machinery just to convey you through a space. To make you feel something for 5 minutes.
Yeah, to give you some distraction from the cold real world outside for the next 3.5 minutes. We're going to make you feel like you're X, Y, or Z. I think that's really the idea behind so much of this stuff. Even like video games, movies, theme park attractions and stuff like that. These are all these really creative ways of distracting stuff. And I think that what theme entertainment does even more so than things like movies and video games is they put you into it. I mean, like the whole like Galaxy's Edge thing, how many times when I was a little kid did I want to be in that world? How many times, no matter what your favorite, properties are as far as like, mass media like and stuff like that. Yeah. Harry Potter, any of that stuff. I mean, how many times when you were a kid did you want to exist in somewhere that wasn't here?
It's a really good time to be a Harry Potter and a theme park fan right now.
Yeah, no shit. Because they're vomiting the Harry Potter all over you.
And it's about to be a really great time to be a Nintendo fan and a theme park fan as well.
That's what I understand. But we're not gonna dive too much into it. It's funny because I was going to be like, so what's coming up next for you? But I realize that you probably can't talk about shit. So,
well, I mean, what's coming up next is, I don't have a lot of stuff like on the horizon because again, RIP themed entertainment. Lots of stuff has been canceled or shelved or postponed or whatever. I think that, a lot of our Asian projects will probably turn back on eventually. And the one project that I'm working on right now that, doing the music and sound for is, it's interactive dark ride in China. And that takes me probably through March of next year. And I have a couple of other smallish kinds of things here and there as well that are going to come up. But yeah, I mean, there's a new park that's going to be opening up in the UAE somewhere in the next couple of years that I'm hoping to work on as well. I don't think it's been announced, so I can't really say it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very near to the Warner Brothers world that I worked on as well.
Okay. Yeah.
You know,
that looks insane, by the way. Like,
and I'm hoping to work on some of there's a new park, the Paramount Park that's going to open up in the UK outside of London.
oh wow,
I know all the people working on that, and that good friends of mine are working on that, and I'm hoping to work on that as well. So, but that's that's next year, year after. So I think the rest of this year, unless something unexpected happens, and the rest of the year is going to be pretty mellow for me.
Yeah,
which is fine because the last few months have just been like full on 12-hour days, 7 days a week.
Oof. The joys of being independent.
Yeah.
Feast or famine kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's especially, I'm having a little bit of survivor's guilt because so many of my friends and colleagues have been laid off in the last month or so. And it's just like, there's like literally thousands of incredibly talented and qualified people that are just like not going to have anywhere to go.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. It's kind of rough.
Because especially, and it's not like they just got laid off, but there's other work that can be done at other companies. It's like, no, everything's just stopped.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they restart things too once that comes back around.
Yeah, I mean, there's still no talk about like when Disneyland and the Disneyland Resort's going to reopen. I think that I'll be surprised if it opens by Labor Day.
Yeah, I don't know. That's maybe.
That's 4 weeks from now. I can't imagine everything turning around enough for Disneyland to open, and because LA County and City of Los Angeles and Orange County are under very strict. We're not quite in lockdown like we were like 2 months ago.
Right.
But like, there's no indoor congregating at all. Like you can't go indoors anywhere. So yeah, I don't know. It's a dark time for the industry. And I just hope that, we get a vaccine or some sort of other therapy that can happen, sooner rather than later. And that, everybody is smart and takes it so that we can have entertainment again, because also, in about 6 or 9 months, we're going to run out of TV.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be no more new TV.
Yeah, that's true.
Because, unless stuff starts filming like now.
Right. Or else like TV is going to look like this.
Yeah. Well, it already does. I mean, like you look at all the late shows, like, the Colbert and Daily Show and Seth Meyers and all that, they're all still like 4 months later, all filming from home, which is it's bizarre.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of, it's interesting to see how I mean, plus, you're looking at the collapse of the movie industry right now too. I mean, the movie theater industry is obviously, a free falling shithole right now.
It's not going to come back. It's not going to come back like we had it before. I mean, and especially now with the deal that AMC made with the Universal 17-day window.
Yeah.
Before streaming, it's just like going to see a movie in a theater is going to be as novel as going to see a play or a musical in a theater. Yeah. A live theater. It's like it's something you do for special occasion. Like you want to go see like. Okay, you want to go to the IMAX theater and see Tenet or whatever, but you're not going to go to the theater to see like a King of Staten Island or something like that. No, comedy or a romantic comedy or a drama or anything like that, because that's all for streaming now.
Yeah, it's interesting, and this is it's kind of like a lot of the audience here, they're creative folk, and it's just like, well, now's your chance. The playing field is kind of evened a little bit.
It has. And, if you are a composer and music producer and you want to start getting into like media and scoring media and things like that, number one, there's never been more content being produced. Number two, it's never been easier to make content.
Yeah.
With the tools that are available, it's scary how easy it is to like literally like pressing a few keys to make a polished, finished sounding element of a score, especially dramatic scoring and action scoring and things like that. It's gotten so much easier. It's taken so much of the work out of it, but at the risk of now it's very homogenized. Television and film music all pretty much sounds the same anymore.
Yeah, well, it's like pop music nowadays too. It's the homogenization of most music.
Yeah.
in the end. But once it becomes more of a product, then it just becomes a little bit more soulless.
Yeah, for sure.
You know.
Oh, and that's one of the reasons that I still like that I really like working in theme parks and themed entertainment is that almost everything I do is some sort of interesting genre of music.
Mm-hmm.
I think on my website you can. There's a really broad. I'm going to open up my website right now. See, I forget what's up there.
Stuff. Is this in the production demo section?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the demos.
Mm-hmm.
It's under media, I think.
Yeah, I'm in there right now.
There, almost there. Yeah, like the 3D Dark Ride score, I think is Dark Ride BGM. I think. There we go. What is that? Yeah. So the track called Dark Ride BGM
Mm-hmm.
is for a very small dark ride, like for like really small children, based on Garfield the cat, the Garfield franchise.
I'm gonna play that real quick here for folks to hear.
I can't hear it at all.
That's okay. I played it for them. I played a little snippet of it for them.
So that's a little snippet of music that I wrote for this dark ride, and that is performed by this local group called the California Feet Warmers.
Mm-hmm.
They're a small hot jazz band that I saw play at a restaurant downtown, like 10 years ago. And I've been, following them ever since, and I was like always looking for a way to integrate them into an attraction somehow. And this ride came up, and I thought, oh, this is perfect, and just like this fun kind of, jazzy, simple, fun kind of music. And so I mean, like, there's no other opportunity to write that kind of music and produce that kind of music and arrange it and record it,
Mm-hmm.
in any mainstream kind of way. And to, make money off of it, it's, such a unique opportunity to get to, like, play in that world for a few months,
Mm-hmm.
and write that kind of music and record it and mix it and deliver it, and then the next project is, the Gods of Egypt VR coaster. And it's like doing this like Stargate kind of music,
Mm-hmm.
David Arnold kind of like big, action adventure kind of score. And then, like, the thing after that is like this Halloween Lagoon show that's like, scary 80s music and stuff like that, or industrial. And it's just, it's, the variety is just so huge. And it's just like, if I just was a traditional film or television composer, I would, I would just be kind of doing my shtick, whatever that would be.
Right.
People would hire me for like the shtick,
Yeah.
whatever sound I would have been known for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in this case, people hire me because I'm versatile. I can work across all genres.
Mm-hmm.
I'm much more, I listen to a lot more music. I'm not just focusing on one style.
Right.
They can play me something, we can listen to something, and like they have a temp track, and I can be like, yeah, I can do something just like that. I can recreate it or dissect it or come up with some sort of, synthesis of styles.
Mm-hmm. It's like the master of none kind of thing. You can just,
sure,
give me this and I'll take care of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then I'll get just good enough to reproduce it, or like in this case, hire the right people to play it and, have it sound really authentic.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so folks that want to hear the media stuff that Andy's been doing with Pachinko Media, the website is pachinkomedia.com. There's a media section there. You can hear the projects and media area, and it shows there's a nice demo reel in there, as well as the pieces that are, doesn't really say what ride's there for, but that's okay. We'll let you use your imagination and figure that out on your own.
Yeah, this is one of those instances of like, uh, asking for forgiveness rather than permission.
Exactly.
It's a gray area with artists and musicians and composers as to like what you're allowed to post and what you're not allowed to post and things like that. And it's just some plausible deniability and not using the real names of any of this kind of stuff. And some of it is unproduced. I mean, stuff is just like a demo, like the One World NYC fly through is a demo that I did for the One World Trade Center for this for the attraction that they have there at the top. I ended up not getting hired for the main contract. I ended up doing some small stuff on the big ring, video media ring that they have there. But the larger experience is done by somebody else, unfortunately, and I was kind of crushed. And it's still one of the best things I've ever written is that fly through demos. I can't believe they didn't hire me. It's tragic. It would be so much better. It would have been so much better if they'd hired me. Yeah. One of the other people that I mentioned earlier did that music and is kind of my nemesis.
Oh. Well, there you go. We all need nemesises. Nemesi?
Yeah.
What's the plural for nemesi? Nemesis?
Do you know what nemesis means? Remember the movie Snatch?
Yep.
Anyway.
Great.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. And
thank you. Thanks for hanging out with me for a couple hours here today.
So I've got I got the class coming up in 2 weeks.
Yes.
So everybody sign up for that. I think there's only 5 or 10 slots left at this point. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to Morgana in a few days. And then also I do my own web show, much like this, with Patrick Kling of Nickelodeon Experience Design. We have the Untitled Themed Entertainment Lockdown Show every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, where we always have really interesting guests and discussions related to themed entertainment.
Yes. Yeah, check that out. I'll post a link to that show in the Discord group.
Cool.
That way folks can go and check that out.
All of our episodes are archived as well on YouTube on Patrick's channel. Like last week, we had an incredible discussion about cultural appropriation in theme parks.
Oh, wow.
And we talked about that for over 2 hours, and boy, was it interesting.
I can imagine. Jeez. I was just reading the thing about Trader Joe's and their names and how they're not planning on changing those and stuff like that. And,
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. Cool. Well, thanks again for coming. Next week, I'm going to be joined by Adam Boos, who is the owner of the mastering engineering company called Cauliflower Audio, based out of here in Cleveland. He's the guy that does all the mastering for the X Studios albums. We're going to hang out and talk music and mastering, and we're going to nerd out and probably say a whole bunch of stupid in-jokes that no one else is going to understand but us. So that'll be fun, at least for me. And then the week after that is Synth Weekend on Twitch. So the Golden Shrimpers are going to be doing more crazy synthesizer music and stuff like that. So I'll be joining them. I'm going to be doing a 9 p.m. slot, a little bit almost my bedtime. So maybe I'll do something sleepy. Or I'm just going to be screaming at people the entire time. Oh yeah. Also 808 Fest is coming up as well. So, everyone get ready for that. I'm not going to be doing anything 808 Fest wise because I don't have anything that I would use as an 808. I was going to borrow my friend's 808, but I'm just kidding. I don't have any friends.
Emulators. Sorry.
Actually, I do have machines that can do the 808. I just don't know what to do with that, and I got other shit to do. I'm a busy boy. Let's see what else is going on. Tuesdays is Synesthesia show, the music technology show that I do with Mr. Rodney Orpheus. Which is always good fun because we get to make fun of each other. And then of course every Wednesday night that is way past my bedtime except for the past couple Wednesday nights is of course Gear Splaining, where we hang out and splain gear and DJ Coherence lose his mind about something and go off on tangents for 15 minutes. It's a good time. Anyway, Andy, thanks again. Everyone out there in Twitch and Facebook and YouTube, thanks for watching, and we'll hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.